the offensive line play.
Well, and again, it points to personnel, and it points to maximizing your personnel and what you have on the depth chart, and specifically, it's who are your guards going to be moving into the 22 season. I think at the moment we know 3 of the 5, right? I mean, we know that Alt and Fisher are going to be at the tackles, at least right now, and Patterson.
Well, we know they're going to be somewhere, right? I mean, we think it's going to be tackle. Right. They're going to be starting somewhere.
So who are the other 2? Let's put it that way. Who are the other 2 guys going to be? Obviously, Kristofic is returning. So, he's
Josh
got
Lugg's returning.
Josh Lugg is returning. Good call.
I mean, you have 5 starters coming back.
That is true.
Essentially.
Yeah.
And you have 5 guys that have started games coming back.
Correct.
Actually, 8, actually. Because Tosh Baker started games last year. Michael Carmody started games last year. And Zeke Correll started games.
That is true.
I mean, you have 8 different guys coming back that have started games in Notre Dame.
But again,
even though it's young, there's a lot of guys that have played.
And you've got a brand new coach who's going to come in and he's going to make his own assessment along with Chris Watt, and they're going to figure out, okay, one of the best things that I loved about Harry Heistand when he was here is he was all about take top 5 guys and figure out where they go. You know what I mean? And how are they going to mesh the best together to get the top 5 guys on the field? And I that's the best strategy I've ever heard from an offensive line standpoint, right? And so what is that going to look like? And that's going to be the biggest question mark. Well, who are those 5 going to be, 5 or 6, really? And what is it going to look like? And that's going to be his charge moving forward, right? Finding those top 5 guys.
Like, I feel like there's certain things I assume about the 2022 team.
Okay.
I assume Jarrett Patterson's going to be pretty good. I assume that Jarrett Patterson's combination of his own talent, his combination of being healthy, because remember, Jarrett Patterson got hurt late in 2020, missed a lot of the offseason, right, because he was coming back from the foot injury, and lower body injuries are the worst for offensive linemen.
Absolutely. That's where all your power is.
Right. Yeah. And I think that's why he was so much better late in the year than he was early in the year. Because if Jarrett Patterson was going to make an NFL decision off what he was the first 5-6 games of the year, there's not even a question that he's going to come out. He's definitely coming back.
Yeah.
He played much better down the stretch because I think he was healthier. Well, now he's going to have a full offseason to get stronger and get healthy. Then you look at him with Harry Heistand. Look, Harry Heastand's never had a center with Jarrett Patterson's natural God-given ability.
It's a good point. It was
Nick
always
Martin was really good. Sam Mustipher was really good.
Yeah.
They didn't have his physical tools. Now, I'm not saying that he's necessarily better than those guys. He still has a lot to prove to me. But I think that his natural tools are there. Jarrett's gotten by a lot on just athleticism, if we're going to be honest, the last couple of years. So I think he's going to be really good. I have a lot of confidence in the tackles.
Sure.
And we saw them they went up against the nation's best pass rush last year in the bowl game and more than held their own, in my opinion. I mean, Joe Alt gave up 1 sack which was a coverage sack. Blake Fisher gave up 1 sack, and it was an easily correctable mistake. But I mean, they threw the ball 68 times and had more passing. They had at least 70 passing plays. 1 gave up a coverage sack, and 1 gave up just 1 pressure that resulted in the sack on the outside. I mean, other than that, those 2 guys, those guys,
they held up just fine.
They did pretty good
as 2 freshmen. I mean, one getting a second start, bookended on the entire season. I mean, you're talking about September all the way to January 1st. You know what I mean? That's a long time.
So I'm confident there. The question for me, the thing that's going to determine whether or not this is going to be a really good offensive line, just a good offensive line, or a great offensive line, and the range is going to be there. Like, it's going to at least be good.
Yeah, right.
In my opinion. Good chance it's going to be really good, but can it really be like the 15 unit? Can it be like the 17 unit? Can it be like the 12 unit, even though the talent is way better across the board than the 12 unit? Now, again, I'm not saying that any of these guys are Zach Martin. I'm just making the point as a group of 5, the talent's better. Like, maybe the 2012 line was better at 1 with Zach Martin because, Blake's got a lot to prove. Jarrett's got a lot to prove. Zach Martin in 2012 is better than anybody that Notre Dame has right now from what they've shown. But 3, 4, and 5, talent-wise, I mean, it's not even close. With all due respect to Braxton Cave, Mike Golick Jr., and Christian Lombard. I mean, I think they would tell you that if you watch the players in the current team, right?
Right.
I think that's the question. The concern, however, the difference between just good and great is going to be the guards.
Yeah.
and figuring out what's going on there. Like with Josh Lugg coming back, I got major concerns about whether that's the right idea or not. But if Josh Lugg can be healthy, if Josh Lugg is able to stay healthy this year, he's going to be a good player because, as we've said for years, he's got to be a guard. The injuries have taken away his ability to play in space. He's just not an edge player.
Right.
If he's going to
And
be
we
successful,
said that going into the
right,
season, though, that his best position is guard.
Right. Now, I loved him as a tackle coming out of high school, but he's not that guy anymore.
Exactly.
He can be a guard. They're going to have to get the most out of him. And if he's not able to be healthy or not able to take his game to another level, then Coach Hiestand has to be willing to allow him to be beat out. And can someone beat him out? Left guard, Andrew Kristofic did a really nice job last year. Not so much so, however, that I think he's just given the job.
He's locked
it's anointed to him.
Yeah, right.
You know, and if he starts, that's fine. I'm good with that. But he needs to start because he held off and beat out Michael Carmody, who I hope moves to guard, beat out Rocco Spindler, beat out Zeke Correll, guys that I think are going to be better this year than they were in the past.
Sure.
You know, those are the things that I'm looking for, is if solidifying those two positions is going to determine whether this is just a good offensive line or an elite offensive line. And that's the final piece to this puzzle for Harry Heistand and the offensive line.
Yeah, and we're obviously going to be breaking down the offensive line a lot moving forward. There's still some things I'd like to see happen from a personnel standpoint that, you know, I would be interested, and I think Harry's going to be open to moving guys around if he feels like that's going to be the best thing for the offensive line. But yeah, guard play is going to be very, very interesting to see who ends up there. And it could be a current tackle. I mean, you just never know who that's going to end up being.
So we'll move on to the receiver here in a second, but I did want to address Wade's question before we move on. So you go ahead and give that a read, Vince.
You betcha. Wade, thank you for the super chat very much. Says, hey guys, you've talked about Coach Hiestand's coaching style. Is there any concern that the younger guys or recruits may not take well to it?
Yeah, there is for me. I'm concerned about that. It's not
two different coaching styles from Quinn to Hiestand. Yeah, let's be honest.
I'm concerned about whether or not they're going to buy in or not. But it's not a Harry Heistand problem. That's going to be a player problem. You know, do you want to be great? Do you want to be pushed? And you know, my hope is that, number one, you do have one guy left on the team who was coached by Harry Heistand for a season, Josh Lugg. You're going to have, I'm told that we're going to see Martins, Q, all those guys back on campus this summer at the lineman camps, which they always were when he was still here.
Right, exactly.
Quentin never was because Quentin was a player, but like Martins always came back. They always came back with Coach, you know, Chris Watt would always come back and work the summer camps with Coach Hiestand. And Ronnie Stanley came back the last couple of years, you know, or at least one of the last couple of years. Right. So you're going to have those guys back. I think they're going to be able to give some words of wisdom. You're going to have Chris Watt there, who played for Harry Heistand for 2 seasons, who's going to be able to say, hey, listen, guys. And I think that's a big, important piece to Chris Watt coming back. Is that's a guy that played for Harry Heistand. And here's the thing. Right. If you've ever met Chris Watt, he's not a real imposing guy. You don't meet him and think, oh, former NFL offensive lineman. He ain't a real big guy. The reason that's important is because he's going to say, hey, guys, look at me. You know, like I was a 3rd-round NFL draft pick. You know, I took my talent that I had and I allowed myself to be pushed by Coach Hiestand, and that combination, you know, helped me be part of some really good football teams. You know, in 2012, we went to the national title game. In 2013, you know, we were 2nd in the nation and only giving up 8 sacks. We were one of the best lines in the country that year, and what they were asked to do. And, you know, he can be sort of the Hiestand whisperer. You know,
and that's
some of the veterans.
He's going to be the go-between, I think, a lot.
He needs
the players
to be. That needs to be part of
and
his
the coach.
Role.
Yeah, exactly. Because he's closer in their age, and you know,
he always needs to have Coach Hiestand back. And it's not about it's okay. It's more about, hey, man, you know, he can be that veteran presence of saying, hey, listen to what he's saying, not how he's saying.
Exactly.
Because that's what the veterans would always tell the younger guys. There was always that buffer of, hey, you know, listen, it's going to be all right. So it's imperative that, number one, that I would hope the Coach Hiestand would just let him know, hey, guys, listen. I mean, he needs to be the one to say that because he didn't recruit these guys. It's kind of like when I got back into coaching, my wife, you know, was a great coach's wife, but it was hard on her. I know it was hard on her. And it was kind of like part of the reason I got out was she didn't sign up for that, right? Like she didn't sign up to be a coach's wife. That's something that came later.
Right.
And to me, that is kind of where with this is these kids didn't sign up to play for Harry Heistand.
That's a very good point.
He needs to sit down and say, hey, listen, you guys did not sign up for what you're about to get through. Okay. I'm going to ride you. I'm going to be hard on you. I'm going to be demanding. I'm going to probably throw some pins and stuff across the room. I'm going to cuss you. But here's the thing. You got to listen to what – that's just how I am, guys. I'm 63 years old. I'm not changing who I am.
Exactly.
Okay? But if you stick with me, if you understand where I'm coming from, if you this, if you that, I promise you I'm going to make you the best version of who you can be. And then when that's reinforced by Chris Watt, by Zach Martin, by Nick Martin, by Robert Hainsey, by Quentin Nelson, by those guys, then it'll be easier to take. And I hope the Coach Hiestand does that. I'm not asking Coach Hiestand to change. He shouldn't change. I'm asking him to say, maybe you need to adjust the manner in which you go about preparing them for who you are going to be. That's what I think he can change, is because he didn't recruit these kids, and they are a young group. He inherited kind of a veteran group in 2012. I mean, Zach Martin was a senior. Watt was a senior. They ended up being fifth years the next year. But, Mike Golick Jr. was a fifth-year senior, I believe, in 2012. Braxton Cave was a senior. I mean, he inherited a pretty young group. It was just Christian Lombard was really the only young guy that he had. Ronnie Stanley was the other. This is a much younger group than one he inherited.
Right.
So I do hope he has that conversation, Wade. And I am concerned about the players taking it because it's just the unknown. But I think at the end of the day, there's going to be enough there that they're going to understand.
Because there is a track record, though. Like, you know what I mean? Right. Like, there's a massive track record for what he's done at Notre Dame and putting guys in the NFL. Right. And look, these guys aren't coming to Notre Dame without aspirations.
Right. Blake Fisher wants to be you don't think Blake Fisher, as good as he is, thinks he's a top 10 NFL draft? I hope he does.
Right.
But then be willing to work to earn it. And I think that's what's going to – what people I think are going to learn about Blake is I do think this kid wants it. He's not just talented. I do think he wants it. Now we're going to see if he's willing to play with that and embrace that coaching. So, Wade, I think that's a legitimate concern. I do. I think it's going to end up being okay because Harry Hiestand's done this before. His coaching style is a lot harder than Jeff Quinn's, but it's also a lot harder than Ed Warner's, and that 2012 group embraced it.
Yeah.
You say, kids are different. I don't know how different offensive linemen are.
Yeah, I was going to say.
At least not the kids that Notre Dame is. I mean, these are a bunch of northern kids for the most part.
Offensive linemen are different.
Yeah.
We're not talking
They're
about
tougher.
Wide receiver. We're not talking
They tend to be tougher, mentally, physically tougher kids.
Absolutely.
Look, Andrew Kristofic's from Pittsburgh.
Mm-hmm.
He's been cussed at before. You know what I'm saying? Like, Blake Fisher's from Indianapolis. He's been cussed at before. You get me, Vince? I mean,
absolutely.
Michael Carmody, enough said, right? I mean, I'm not concerned about that, to be honest with you. The question is, does he still have that magic touch? That's what we're going to find out. I believe he does, but that's what we're going to find out. So, yeah. Now, Vince,